Another edition of Beat the Closing Number presented by thelines.com. My name is Eli Hershkovich. You can follow The Lines on Twitter at TheLinesUS. You can follow my co-host on Twitter at Nuwwarah as it's spelled on the screen. Before we get started, remember to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications whenever The Lines releases a new sports betting video on any market, including Major League Baseball. And with that in mind, we have a special guest today on Beat the Closing Number. He is Jason Weingarten, and you can follow him on Twitter at Spreadapedia, a professional bettor, and he does so for a variety of networks, including VSiN. What's going on today, Jason? How are your baseball bets going?
Pretty good. It's getaway day, so nice to have some day baseball going on. Got an eye on the Mets. I got an eye on the Cubs first inning. I got an eye on end of the Giants game. So a lot going on for middle of the day on a Wednesday. It's kind of nice.
For someone like Mo, and I want you guys to introduce yourselves to one another virtually, obviously, in a second, but Mo actually was asking me before the podcast, and Jason, we'd done some work together in the past, met one another in person at Circa, but for our listeners and viewers that have never heard you before talking Major League Baseball or any sport, whether it's just talking about it or from a betting standpoint, how did you get yourself not only into the sports media landscape, but as a pro sports bettor in general?
I've been betting for a while now. I was into football before baseball. Yeah, it's been such a long time. I mean, it's 2023, so we're going on 10 plus years of doing baseball betting now. Yeah, it just kind of happened. I was in college. I didn't like going to class particularly much, and gambling gave me an opportunity to make more money than I would doing most anything else, with a lot more financial freedom and flexibility. And I value my time a lot, so I don't really want to do things and waste time. And there's a lot of just stuff out there that's just absolute waste of time. And gambling gambling seems like a waste of time to a lot of people, and it can be, but it's one of the few things that lets you be your own boss and gives you the flexibility to kind of live your life at your own pace. So it fits me pretty well.
And one of the baseball markets that you hone in on in particular is yes run first inning. And in the gambling Twitter space, maybe not to the non-novice bettor, but for the bettors that are just getting into baseball betting, you have a lot of Twitter accounts that pump out no-run first inning bets, otherwise known as NRFIs. So for there literally to be no run scored combined with both teams in the first inning, that's what that means, and might be obvious, but just want to explain to the listener that doesn't know. So why is it disadvantageous for the bettor that doesn't know too much about that market? I know Mo wants to touch on how you come up with the most valuable bets for yourself, what goes into it for you numbers-wise. But just in general, what makes that market so appealing, the NRFI side of it, and why is it so, again, anti-value, anti-plus EV when bettors are trying to get more skilled at this kind of thing?
Well, I mean, people are stupid, so it's the same reason why the field bet on the craps table is a popular bet, even though you win 16 ways and you lose 20. People just want to bet. They want to, that's why crack cocaine is so popular, is, people are impulsive and stupid. No runs in the first inning give you a great opportunity to be stupid and impulsive. And, you can see from the way they're advertised and marketed by both sports books and the people who think they're no run first inning handicappers and stuff. It's the blind leading the blind. It's some of the dumbest stuff I've ever seen. At this point, I'm kind of over trying to convince anybody not to do it. Same way I'm not going to tell you not to go smoke crack. Hey, if you want to go and waste your life and do drugs, do it. It's your life. You want to bet no score first innings, do it. You're providing me with the opportunity to get a better number on the other side. So, I appreciate it. I just don't at this point, I just don't have any incentive or interest in arguing with people over why they're wrong. You know, you can either in gambling and a lot of things in life, you can either listen to somebody who has more experience tell you that you're stupid and that you're wrong, and be inquisitive and try to figure out why, and take that as a cue to get better at what you're doing, or you can double down and double down on your stupidity, which seems to be the way people go with the no run first inning. So I just kind of let it happen at this point. I'm more content to bet my own stuff.
That's exactly why. That answer in particular is exactly why I wanted to have Jason on the podcast. But Mo, I'll hand you the next question here.
Yeah, so when you're looking for these bets, I guess somebody sent me a sheet years ago that's supposed to like derive the NRFI and YRFI prices from the game total. Are you just using straight derivatives, or are you diving like pretty deep into how the top of the lineups are going to match up against each pitcher?
I think one of the things with the NRFI people that kind of I think is the funniest or tilts me the most. I don't exactly know how to put it in the right context, but one of the things with the NRFI people is they love to write write-ups and explanations, and got to write 1,000 words or 2,000 words and handicap the top of the lineup and tell me the numbers, and I'm already just like, I'm laughing because I almost can price these in my sleep. I could do this on the toilet almost. It's not rocket science. Derivative pricing in baseball is pretty straightforward. I think a lot of people just get caught up in narratives and decide that, oh, well, this pitcher's good, there's no way they'll give up a run before getting 3 outs. And like I said, I'm at the point where I'm not trying to correct people anymore. Like I have no interest, I have no incentive in explaining things to people in these markets. In fact, if you think no score first inning is the way to go, and I'm not saying you guys, but the viewers, like, I encourage you to keep betting no scores. Do what makes you happy. But know that you're wrong, and the other side is the one that makes money long term.
How did you decide that this derivative market was for you, I guess? Because obviously, like, most people are just going to start betting sides and totals, and then even when they are going past sides and totals, I think most people are more interested in player props than stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, it was a right market 10 years ago for making money. Still is for that matter, but 10 years ago you could make, far more money hourly doing that than you could outside of, most professions that you need graduate school or, serious education for. So the money was good. Like I said, it still is, but it used to be even better. But I got into it because I'd been doing a lot of football stuff before, and I'd been finding, this was 10 years ago on Twitter, but people were copying me a lot. I'm not gonna name any names, but like, there were some pretty prominent people who were making a lot more money, who had bigger websites, who were just straight up copying my tweets word for word. And I wasn't even noticing. It was other people, other people in the industry would point out, hey, this guy is, stealing your stuff again. And I see how much money a lot of other people were making in sports and doing content. And I figured, if I switch to this market and differentiate myself, I'll know when all these people are copying me. And that's exactly what happened. And I've done that multiple times. I've switched, to a specific market, or start talking about something. And, like futures, for example, I'm not going to lay the claim that I, was the first one to talk about futures, but, me and Gil on Gil's show, A Numbers Game, spend a lot of time breaking down futures, and all of a sudden every other show is doing the same stuff we are, so a lot of it is just to sort of differentiate yourself out there, see who's copying you. It's pretty easy to, start talking about a new market and seeing who else starts talking about it. And, to this day still, there's still some pretty big people out there who think they can just kind of steal content and that it's not noticeable. But it still happens. I just I don't really worry about it. I worry mostly about the betting.
We got Jason on tilt today. I like it, full-fledged. But want to dive into the YRFIs a little bit more before we head over to futures. Like you mentioned, you do a great job of when you go on Gil's show on VSiN, among other sports betting live shows and podcasts that you do. But looking at a game, I think you mentioned this, maybe it wasn't in reference to a YRFI or yes run first inning, but Cubs-A's just wrapped up in the first inning. Was there anything in particular with that game that you were looking for, no run first inning or yes run first inning, that drove you one way or the other? Or is there a game, just to give the listeners, our audience, some context on how you would go about it for an individual game?
It was a good price. I mean, obviously it always comes down to the price, and in this case it was an attractive price on the S score. And Mason Miller, he's a rookie. I just tend to think that more often than not, rookies have bad starts. Like, you can go look it up. It's not like rocket science or anything. But getting plus money with a rookie pitcher making his first career start, just, it's a good spot. Fortunately, it didn't work out, but I have some other bets on the game that I'm, optimistic I'm going to cash, so it won't be a total loss today.
I wanted to, you mentioned the space itself, and there are a ton of different directions I can go with that, but spinning it more towards trying to give the novice bettor a better look, to use it in maybe lesser terms, of how to make money in this space and how not to go in the wrong direction, especially for a market that is so efficient when it comes to Major League Baseball. Obviously, when people discuss the likes of the NFL betting market, the NFL is super efficient as well, but baseball is maybe a lesser known efficient market to bettors just because of how normalized NFL betting is these days. How does the novice bettor, and obviously for people like yourself, for Mo and I that have been betting, and maybe more so for you, Jason, because you do this professionally, but how does the novice bettor not get caught up in an 162 game season where there are games literally every minute of the day, especially on a day like today on Wednesday when we're recording this, where there were a few afternoon games and, a couple bets might not go your way. And for the average to below average bettor, that can put a bettor on tilt. So how do you advise bettors from staying away from that side of betting and kind of staying on the correct path, especially for someone like you that's been doing this for a while?
If you're not prepared to lose your money betting, then take your money and put it in something like Coca-Cola and, turn on the dividend reinvestment and let it just sit there for the next 20 years, because you're going to be way better off in the long term doing something like that than, wasting your time in betting markets where you don't have an edge and you're not willing to work to gain an edge at anything. And while you are working at gaining an edge in something, there's 1,000 other people, all doing the same thing. So you really have to want to do it, and you have to be realistic with the amount of money you're going to make, or what you can potentially accomplish. That's why it's called recreational gambling, though, is that if you're on the recreational level, you're not expecting this to pay the bills or make money. For me, I expect gambling to fund my rather extravagant lifestyle. So this isn't fun for me. I always think, I always like when people talk about gambling being fun, I'm like, gambling's not fun. Like, this is work. I get up early and do this. This isn't, it can be fun. I enjoy it. Like, it's a lot of, fun aspects of it, but like, you're trying to sell gambling as fun as like trying to sell cigarettes like they did in the 1950s. Like, the way they're marketing gambling right now is so wrong, and it'll come back to bite the industry in the ass seriously down the road.
Do you still have a lot of fun watching sports, especially like talking about baseball, I guess, specifically?
Sports or baseball?
Is it fun to sweat your fee bets?
So I got to tell you, I really like the pitch clock this year, because in the past, the game length was getting so out of hand that, like, by the time the game was getting into the ninth inning, or worse extra innings, I didn't even care about my bet anymore. There were times last year where it's already 10:30 at night, a game's going into extra innings, and I'm like, I don't care who wins. I'll check the score when I wake up. This is stopped being fun to watch. It just drags on forever. But the pitch clock, all these rules this year have sped up the game and actually brought some serious enjoyment back to baseball. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but like, yeah, I mentioned this on a bunch of shows. I watch a lot of Marlins games just because I prefer the Bally's app for watching baseball. And with the combination of the the good pitching and the bad hitting, you can get in and out of a game in 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is much more tolerable. The way college basketball just kind of drags out at the end makes me kind of want to shoot myself. Golf, I love golf. I watch a lot of golf. I find golf relaxing, and I enjoy the presentation and everything. But sports can be hit or miss. You don't have to watch lots of sports to be successful at betting. Like, I don't even have a TV in my office. I have the games on usually on my TV in the living room, but I don't watch games while I'm working for the most part. I do check the box scores. I got box scores up to the left of me right now.
Yeah, I'm a big box score guy as well, but I think watching the games definitely does help me. I'm usually more of a sides guy, so need to have a good read on all the pitching. And I guess switching kind of gears into how this baseball season has been going, we wanted to check in on how you were feeling about some of the teams a few weeks into the season. I know it's like maybe a little early to change your opinion on anything, but Eli said you were a little bit high on the Astros, and I was like pretty anti-Astros coming into the season. I'm feeling pretty good so far. Their offense has been pretty bad. So I was wondering if you are feeling still pretty optimistic about them, given how things have gone so far.
Their record's basically the same 15, 20 games into the season as it was last year. So, no, I'm not worried about the Astros at all. There's nobody else in their division that's kind of seized the advantage. The Mariners playing average. The Rangers already have a bunch of injuries. So, I still see the Astros far and away the class of the American League. Maybe the Yankees are second. Maybe the Rays are second right now. But I still don't see anybody remotely close to the Astros in terms of all around talent. Now it's just a question of, is Yordan Alvarez going to be healthy? Is Jose Abreu going to do anything? There's a lot of things still have to happen, but talent wise, the gap between the Astros and the rest of the American League is significant.
You brought up Tampa Bay. The Rays have the best record in the American League, now the favorites, I believe, to win the AL East, which isn't surprising, at least in terms of the market, considering their hot start. I don't want to say it was unprecedented or unexpected. I mean, you've been a Wander Franco guy for a long time. I don't know if you bet his MVP futures this year, but I know you've been high on the Rays, especially Franco, for at least a couple of years. Is this start, even though the competition maybe has been subpar, if you look at who they played to begin the season, the Nats, the Tigers, then the Red Sox, I believe, fouled up, or some combination, of something like that in terms of the order of teams they faced. What do you make of Tampa Bay long-term this season?
Starting off with 12 or 13 wins is very helpful in the 162 game season for making the playoffs and winning your division. And if you look at the miss the playoff markets, you've seen they've adjusted pretty heavily towards Tampa making the playoffs because like I said, those 12, 13 wins are going to be the cushion that gets them there at the end of the season. It might actually, could win them the division. Just because it's a lot of wins. But the reality is, I always tell people, keep this in mind with the start of baseball season, is that there's always win streaks, there's always losing streaks. We tend to kind of focus more on stuff that happens at the beginning of the season because it's the only thing that's happening. I really don't get concerned about performance and underperformance for about another month or, probably even into June before I'll seriously start worrying about, guys I projected to be better.
Yeah, Tampa Bay right now has the fifth shortest odds to win it all at a bunch of the major legal sports books. The Braves now the favorite at around plus 500, plus 600, depending on the book. And the Astros with the second shortest odds are right there with the Dodgers. So you mentioned not overreacting and maybe more so underreacting. And we haven't seen many major market adjustments when it comes to futures, especially with team by team odds. Like I mentioned, the Astros still right around second shortest odds to win it all. But a team like the Padres or even the Cardinals, who have underperformed to date, Mo and I have been talking about them, whether it's been on our podcast or off air, just long-term investment wise, maybe if it gets to June and they're still underperforming at this rate. Now, the Cardinals are an interesting case study just because that rotation, bullpen is good. The offense is elite. The rotation is terrible outside of Jordan Montgomery, and he's definitely not a one. I'm still shocked the Cardinals didn't upgrade their rotation. What do you make of the NL Central? The Cardinals, Padres overall in the NL West, long-term with these two teams, whatever direction you want to take it, Jason.
I still like the Cardinals. Pirates have overperformed. I've done well. I bet the Pirates a lot this season. That's been a profitable bet. I'm interested to see how they continue to play, if they can play 500 baseball for another month or two. Milwaukee, I'm pretty down on. I know Corbin Burns looks like he's going to make his next start, but losing Brandon Woodruff puts more strain on the rotation. 7-11 record for St. Louis before the end of today, so they'll be 8-11 after this. It's not exactly like, nothing to panic over being 8-11 a couple weeks into baseball season. It's like it's still mid-April. All the stuff we're talking about, no one's gonna remember, come October, come August even. So, I don't worry too much about being a couple games under 500 right now.
Last question from me. Any other market you're honing in on, whether it's an individual player market or team-by-team odds, that bettors, novice or pro, should pay attention to right now?
I think the Cy Young markets are interesting this year. In the NL, Sandy Alcantara's not been so great outside of his complete game shutout, and he's going to need about a month of shutout, 4 or 5 starts, complete shutouts to get his ERA back to where it was last year. So some of the younger guys have kind of pushed ahead early in the National League, mainly Julio Urias, who I've bet on a couple of years in a row now. He looks like a serious contender. And then Spencer Strider, he's a guy that, I'm always betting against him, betting unders, betting overs, totals when he pitches. And he just keeps striking guys out. Turns out he actually is Randy Johnson. I made a joke on a different show that he's not Randy Johnson, and one of the other guys was like, "Well, he actually has a 40% strikeout rate, so he kind of is." And I'm like, you're right. I guess I'm wrong on this one. I'm just, get a guy wrong. So if Strider stays healthy, I think he's going to be a serious contender this year, because he's one of the few guys in that, in the NL who's going to get way over 200 strikeouts if they pitch him enough innings. So I think there's still some good numbers on him. 7-1 or so, 8-1 is good enough to really bet it. And then the AL, you get Ohtani versus Garrett Cole at the top this year. It's a pretty competitive battle. If either one of them falters, kind of like Pablo Lopez, he was a guy last year. I made the mistake early. I decided I wanted to add a Cy Young future, and it was between Sandy and Pablo Lopez. And I went with Pablo Lopez because his numbers were better at the time. And that was just a major, major whiff. And they do this trade this offseason. And, here I am again, back on the same train, looking at Pablo Lopez saying, well, he's got that pitch mix and he throws from different arm slots and he's pitching great in Minnesota. So there's a guy I might take a flyer on if his odds drift out more. But top of the market is heavy. It's a some years there's long shots, and some years it's a top heavy market, and the Cy Young markets look like got some pretty reasonable favorites to jump in on here.
Yeah, Cole's been off to a hell of a start. I don't think he has a Cy Young.
No, he should have. He should have had one in
resume
Houston, and Verlander got it. But so he might have a chance this year.
Right. You mentioned Lopez. I have a Joe Ryan long shot ticket. Now, Lopez's start doesn't help my bet too much, but Ryan's been very good, maybe besides the one pitch he made to Alvarez in that Astros game. But I actually want to throw it to Mo really quick because I know he has a take on Strider, a similar position to how you've gone about betting against Strider so far in his first season.
Yeah,
plus.
I'm actually curious when you said that. It really reminded me of something we talked about this morning on our show, because my numbers were always telling me, because I use a lot of projections, like publicly available projections from Fangraphs and stuff, and they were always telling me to fade Strider last year. And I faded him like 2 or 3 times, I think, and then I just banned myself. And I just was like, I'm not going to fade Strider anymore because I think something is off with these numbers and they're just not capturing how good he is. So I guess I'm curious, like, how quickly do you make a decision like that? Or do you make decisions like that? Or are you kind of more of a go by the numbers type of bettor? Or how do you balance that with your like qualitative opinions?
I mean, with like Strider in particular, last year I was in the same boat that I kept thinking, well, he's going to have a bad start. He's going to have some regression. He's going to have some regression. And every week it was like 10 strikeouts, shutout, and crazy. I don't even know what to say, honestly. Like, it was just, some guys, I think the thing, I guess, with pitching prospects versus hitting prospects is, hitting play, offensive players can spend several years in the minors going through all the levels, waiting for a job opening or an opportunity. But with pitchers, your arm's ready when your arm's ready, because you get hurt and your career's, derailed for a year or 2 years, or you might never be good again. So when you're ready, you go out and, they promote you. And so I'm fine with the more aggressive approach with the pitching guys, Strider, in particular. And sometimes guys just make the jump. He went from single A to major league rotation and 200 strikeouts, and it's been known to happen. It's rare. I probably still will continue to fade him. And the issue with him, and I've mentioned, this before, is that with a guy like that, you just, like, you can't go up from 40% strikeout rate. You know what I mean? Like you've already maxed out your projections, basically. So you have no margin of safety, basically, at this point. Like, he's gonna regress. It's just a question of if it's in 2 years or 5 years or 2 starts.
Theme of this podcast: don't do cocaine, or do it if you want to, go down the wrong path. Just like the NRFI comparison that Jason made. He is Jason Weingarten on Twitter at Spreadapedia, professional bettor and an analyst for a variety of networks, including VSiN. Again, follow him at Spreadapedia. Thanks so much for joining us on Beat the Closing Number, Jason. Really appreciate it. And that's going to do it for this edition of Beat the Closing Number, presented by thelines.com. Follow Mo on Twitter at Nuwwarah. Follow the Lines on Twitter at the Lines US. Follow me on Twitter at Eli Hershkovich. We'll be back with another edition of Beat the Closing Number, breaking down the MLB card tomorrow. Thanks for watching and listening. So long, everybody.